heads of state and government, DSG Amina Mohammed, ministers, private sector, and civil society representatives, ladies and gentlemen. It is my great honor to deliver closing remarks on what has been a productive deliberation of the second UN Food System Summit, UNFSS Addis. As we are concluding this summit, we live with a renewed aspiration and heightened determination. We came here to take stock, and we advance with a mandate for action. At a time when the international community is going through daunting challenge in the implementation of Agenda 2030, and SDG targets are regressing by nearly 20%. One thing that we cannot afford to disregard is the noble human cause of eliminating hunger and building a resilient food system. As our deliberations and debates have confirmed, the story of the past few years is marked with a powerful contrast. We have seen an unprecedented progress where individual countries have contributed to a decline in a global hunger, with parallel gains in access to safe water, the conservation of the environment through green initiatives, social protection, as well as infrastructure development in agro-food industry. This is further expanded by a coalition of 130 countries that have put forth a national pathway for transformation. However, while we celebrate this progress, we shall ask ourselves the hardest and yet the most valid questions. How can, in an age of cutting-edge technology, we accept that over 2 billion people still cannot afford a healthy diet? How can, in some countries, markets and warehouses overflow with food, while in others, a child still goes to bed hungry? And that's why our work is not merely a technical deliberation, it is a moral imperative for a genuine action. Therefore, the food system agenda is indeed a call for dignity, freedom, and justice for humanity. I ask all of us, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, what really makes this Addis Summit timely and relevant? What are the responsibilities we ought to shoulder? How do we translate these vital discussions into actions? I'm sure it is all reflected in the outcome document and the call to action made by the UN Secretary General and DSG Amina as well. As we conclude the stock take of the UN Food System Summit, it is important to build and reflect on the following viable considerations. First, to governments. If the 130 national pathways are the blueprint, now is the time to boost them with investment in resilient infrastructure, ranging from water storage to irrigation schemes. Countries in close proximity should bring their resources together to install manufacturing for local production of fertilizers and other strategic commodities for agriculture and agro-processing. Second, to the United Nations. The UN shall continue to lead this grand movement of food systems. The UN and its specialist agencies should create platforms that make available data on financing and the know-how on accessing. These platforms can address the knowledge gap and the accessibility challenge that states and private sectors are experiencing. Third, to investors and financiers. You have proven that scaling up is possible. We should target meeting at least a third of the 400 trillion USD required finance for food system transformation. For the private sector, we now have a business compendium of 15 investment-ready models. These are not theories, they are bankable opportunities. Though invest in small and medium-scale enterprise that form the backbone of our communities. In addition, agribusiness should follow a community approach that supports equitable distribution of gains among all our actors in the food value chain. Fourth, the civil society has a unique role to play an effective public mobilization through result-oriented efforts that target sustained solution to the cultural, knowledge, and administrative barriers that impede effective implementation of policies. Civil societies may champion accountability and bring the voice of women, youth, and indigenous peoples from the marriages to the very center of decisions. Fifth, to the youth. The future of humanity depends on the capability of our youth to take over the agroeconomy and apply technology to attain improved productivity. The food sovereignty agenda that puts smallholders at the center require youth engagement and innovation. As stewards of national resources, youth should take active parts in efforts to restore nature and biodiversity. In closing, ladies and gentlemen, I would like you all to join me in expressing our deepest gratitude to the entire UN system, the leadership and the staff, for keeping the development and the food system agenda alive despite the challenges the UN is currently facing. DSG Amina, may I take this moment to thank you and the UN, the entire UN system, for the formidable work you are doing over the years, and thank you very much for that. In this effective global action on the food system, in any other agenda cannot be successful unless centered on multilateral action with the UN at its center. Ethiopia has always been and will remain committed for this effort and advance the food security agenda. And let's leave Addis Ababa not just with agreements, but also with conviction, and I thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, Mr. President. May take your seat on stage. Following, it is an immense privilege to welcome to the lectern His Excellency Mr. Stefano Gatti, Special Envoy for Food Security of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation of Italy.
I apologize on behalf of my mother. Your Excellency of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, Your Excellency the Deputy Secretary General, honorable heads of UN agencies, honorable ministers, distinguished colleagues and friends, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great honor for me to stand here today in front of you and represent the Italian government at the official closing of the second stock-taking moment of UN Food System Summit, here in Addis Ababa, and deliver these remarks on behalf of the President of the Council of Ministers of the Italian Republic, Honorable Giorgia Meloni. Let me start by expressing the deep gratitude of my government to the government of Ethiopia, as guest country and co-chair of the summit. We stand proud of having first embraced and then carried out this journey forward together, based on a sentiment of deep friendship and the common vision shared by our two countries. Your warm hospitality unwavering commitment and extraordinary cooperation have been guiding and supporting our common way. And let me take the occasion, Mr. President, to really thank for the work, outstanding work we did with the Ethiopian team, led by Ambassador Lem Fisea. Lem, thank you very much for the work. Allow me also to express the sincere appreciation of my government to the Deputy Secretary General, Amina Mohammed. Her steadfast leadership in sustainable development and her ambitious vision for authentic food system transformation have been crucial in setting high the bar of our common ambition and driving our joint efforts towards achieving a solid and forward-looking outcome. My country, Italy, as host country of the first stock-taking moment convened in Rome in 2023, is particularly proud to have co-hosted this year UNFCCC+4, together with Ethiopia, in the framework of a common vision for a more resilient, sovereign and inclusive approach to food system transformation. As the Deputy Secretary General said the other day, thanks to all of you, we have brought our handshake to Africa. And the broad and unprecedented participation to this stock-taking moment, both in quantity and quality, has clearly shown that this was the way forward to be followed. What has emerged from this day is not just a reflection. It is a shared political acknowledgement that in a world torn by climate shocks, price volatility, complex crises, conflicts, and rising inequality, food security is not only a development priority. It is a matter of sovereignty and stability. It is a matter of how we shape our common future together. For Italy, food security is a strategic priority. It lies at the core of our foreign policy and our international cooperation agenda, as reaffirmed throughout our 2024 G7 presidency and throughout initiatives such as the Mattei Plan for Africa, where agriculture stands as one of the plan's fundamental pillars. From the Italian Africa Summit in January 2024 up to now, our commitment and announcements have been translated in concrete joint initiatives. Existing programs have been scaled up, new partnerships have been taken forward. This commitment is equally reflected in our multilateral engagement. As the host country of the free Rome-based UN agencies, FAO, IFAD and WFP, Italy has long supported a coordinated and inclusive approach to global food governance, with multilateralism at its core. This vision is also reflected in the way Italy understands and promotes the notion of food sovereignty, not as a rejection of global cooperation, but as the affirmation of each country's right to shape its own agricultural systems, based on local needs, knowledge and traditions. We believe in working with our partner countries to strengthen their self-reliance and their capacity to produce food. The importance of this principle has been made clear throughout this summit. We have seen what becomes possible when governments, youth, farmers, the private sector, researchers, and civil society come together around a common ambition. Now we know that progress and transformation depend not only on policy, they depend on people. We must not let this momentum dissipate. Key milestones lie ahead: COP30 on climate, COP15 on biodiversity, the World Social Summit, the next SDG Summit. In the follow-up to the Food System Summit +4, they are not isolated events, but opportunities to integrate food system transformation across the global agenda and ensure coherence between social, economic, and environment. In this spirit, we welcome the Secretary General call to action, and we are proud of having contributed to its drafting. We must continue to mobilize investments through joint efforts by public and private actors, anchored in shared objectives, mutual accountability, and measured results. Once again, Italy reaffirms its commitment to this journey. You can count on us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Your Excellency Stefano Gatti, join their Excellencies on stage. At this point, Your Excellencies, honored guests, we're deeply honored to welcome to the lectern Her Excellency Amina Mohammed, United Nations Deputy Secretary General.
As you can see here, the women have the last word. His Excellency, the President of the Federal Republic of Ethiopia, my friend and partner, I would say, in crime here, Stefano Gatti, over the last few months, Special Envoy to the Government of Italy, Excellencies, colleagues, and the friends, ladies and gentlemen in the audience. Let me begin by extending my appreciation to the Government of Ethiopia for its warm hospitality, and together with the Italian government, their support as co-hosts for this second United Nations Food Summit stocktake. And those thanks also go to our member states in Rome, our member states in New York, who have followed this process from the beginning. I'd also like to extend my deep appreciation to my colleagues in the Rome-based agencies, FAO, we see WFP, and of course, our IFAD colleagues, and thank you very much. It would be remiss not our landlord, Clava Gatete, the Executive Secretary. The ECA has availed their premises for us throughout this conference, so thank you. Excellencies, over the last 3 days, we have engaged and we've heard from over 3,000 of you. Leaders from Ethiopia and Italy, Kenya, Somalia, Comoros, Liberia, Nigeria, Uganda, Cuba, and ministers from a wide range of sectors, national conveners and other government representatives, youth, indigenous people, food producers, our farmers, business, civil society, development partners, our Rome-based agencies, the UN system as a whole. And I'm particularly grateful to the resident coordinators who joined us here in Addis, as I know you will now go back to work with a renewed impetus to make food systems transformation a reality in our countries, working with our conveners. The energy and vitality of this movement continues to inspire. This gathering has reminded us of the value of coming together as a global community to benefit from the perspectives and the experiences, the lived experiences of many others. Also to shape new bold action and take that with courage as we go forth. Excellencies, on behalf of the Secretary General, let me endeavor to capture some of what we have done in the last 4 years, including the last 3 days. At the UN Food Systems Summit in 2021, in the midst of a global pandemic, we embarked on a journey to grow and to catalyze energy behind an emerging movement for the transformation of our food systems to achieve the 2030 Agenda and the SDGs. Too often, food systems are seen as a part of our challenges, when they can be one of the greatest solutions to deliver for people, for planet, for peace, and for prosperity. 2 years ago, still grappling with the socioeconomic impacts of the COVID pandemic, facing planetary crises and the effects of new to action for the first stocktake of the UNFSS+2 in Rome, appealed for inclusivity to strengthen our efforts to drive more targeted investment and mutual accountability. Since then, governments have shown how they've been able to shift and shape policies for food systems. A total of 130 countries have articulated integrated, multi-sectoral national pathways for food systems transformation. And here again, I would like to acknowledge the incredible contribution of late Sir David Nabarro. In 168 countries, nationally determined contributions are now reflecting the critical role of food and agriculture in reducing greenhouse gas emissions as we seek to adapt and to transform. These are powerful commitments to transform food systems for people and planet, and that you have all helped to inspire. More than 170 countries are implementing school meal programs that support child nutrition, often connecting with local producers and contributing to regenerative production practices. At the subnational level, many of our cities are leading the way in reducing food waste and strengthening local supply chains. I'm proud of what we have achieved. We've heard powerful stories of progress and rising ambition since 2021 from a diverse ecosystem of partners who are reforming policies, they're championing local innovation and digitalization, mobilizing investments and partnerships, and empowering women and youth. And when it comes to our young people, and we've heard it loud and clear, there is an increased understanding that ensuring youth-inclusive and youth-led food systems transformation is important both for youth, but also for building sustainable and resilient food systems. The food systems movement has taken root in global and regional agreements, from COP28 declaration to initiatives emerging from the G7 and the G20 to regional agreements such as the Kampala Declaration earlier this year. Again, powerful commitments to transform food systems for people and planet. Thanks to your collective work and efforts, we are better equipped to meet our ambition. You're strengthening coalitions, and I saw many of them today on the ground floor, and launching new initiatives to help drive our work. And these include, and let me say a few because I think they're worth the recognition of the efforts and the commitment people have made. The Food Systems Accelerator, launched by FAO, GAIN, and the UN Food System Coordination Hub, will support countries to turn strategies, complex issues, into financed and scalable change. Through a greater uptake of the 3FS framework, co-developed by IFAD and the World Bank, we can help governments design more effective, tailored financing strategies. On business engagement, co-led by FAO, the UN Global Compact, and WBCSD, we broke new ground. These efforts culminated in a business compendium of 15 investment-ready models showing how business is shifting from commitment to implementation. And as a result of the investment pitch for Cameroon, the global flagship initiative for food security has announced their intent to partner with the joint SDG fund to significantly scale up existing programs. And again, we take out of here to the high-level meeting in New York, a hopeful large-scale launch. The Convergence Initiative helps drive integration of food systems transformation and climate action for accelerated sustainable development and represents a useful resource for countries to navigate competing policy choices with partners. There are investments in critical sectors, including those under the Mate Plan for Africa, that are mobilizing public-private partnerships and catalyzing private sector investments in coffee, and many others, including many more countries, I will tell you. The UNFSS+4 Youth Declaration, this has been crafted with more than 3,000 youth from all over the world. They've called for inclusive, participatory decision-making in food systems, for climate justice, and for intergenerational collaboration. The UNFSS Coalitions for Action demonstrated that they are dynamic vehicles for food systems transformation, mobilizing diverse stakeholders across sectors and scale to deliver impact aligned with national priorities. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we've got 5 years to go till 2030, and it is encouraging to see that the world remains committed to the realization of the 2030 agenda. As we conclude this stocktake, we must acknowledge the challenges that test our moral compass, our values, and threaten the future sustainability of our planet, underscoring the urgency for us to work in solidarity. The release of the 2025 SOFI report last night confirmed that hunger and malnutrition persist. Climate shocks, conflict, debt, and inequality are widening the cracks in our systems. These are powerful. It is estimated that between 638 and 720 million people, a bit less than 1 in 10 people in the world, faced hunger in 2024. We've seen figures of 2.6 billion people still unable to afford a healthy diet. Only about a third of children aged 6 to 23 and 2/3 of women aged 15 to 49 achieve minimum dietary diversity globally. People's access to food in conflict zones is highly constrained. And sadly, attempts to access humanitarian relief has led to injury and death. Excuse me. Whole communities experience man-made food insecurity. Water. This is my insecurity. Farmers everywhere are facing unprecedented and adverse climate impacts, threatening livelihoods and food security. But I will say that the issues in our conflict zones are man-made. And because they're man-made, people in decision-making need to stand up and show the world that it is unacceptable that people, children, women, have to die because they're trying to get access to food. And as I get my voice back, I do want to call out Gaza, and I do want to call out Sudan. Excellencies, farmers everywhere are also facing unprecedented adverse climate impacts, threatening livelihoods and food security. And developing countries and our economies are still coping with the impacts of inflation, severe fiscal constraints, debt challenges, and the high cost of capital. And again, when a leader has to choose between whether they educate or have health facilities for their kids or pay debts, surely that is something that we can deal with today. Surely we can find ways and solutions to deal with the debt and give our people an education and health. Looking ahead, 512 million people are still projected to be facing hunger in 2030, of whom nearly 60% will be in Africa. Dear friends, as we consider the pathway to 2030, peace and respect for human rights has to anchor our ambitions. It's the only way that we will get back our moral compass. Every person in our world, whether they are rich or they are poor, whether they are young and they're old, has the right to food that is accessible, affordable, safe, and nutritious. Present and future generations are depending on the choices that we make today. And only through inclusive dialogue and genuine partnerships, and I'm going to genuine have to deliver, can countries and communities ensure faster and more effective progress. As we leave this stocktake and take what we achieved here in Addis back home to other milestones, clear points of emphasis have been identified in the SG's call to action. From Rome to Addis and beyond, now available on the website. Excuse us if we don't quite get to the other 5 languages, but we will, because this is languages that have to reach every home, every leader, and every community. First, we must act urgently to summon the funding, innovations, and global solidarity to build a food-secure and climate-resilient future where every person, everywhere, has and deserves. The dramatic reduction in life-saving humanitarian funding to respond to these needs has to be addressed immediately. Reversed and safe access to that life-saving humanitarian support granted. The second is to deepen the implementation of our national pathways to food systems transformation. I heard many courageous efforts being made by leaders, the co-conveners in our countries today. They deserve our support, they deserve the investments so that they can accelerate those plans to 2030. We also need the effective and meaning participation of all relevant stakeholders, which is a priority. Particular attention to involving family farmers, frontline food workers, women, youth, indigenous people, our local communities. But let's also not forget our local businesses. Let's not forget the entrepreneurs. They are mostly women and young people. Third, we must unlock finance and investment, and that means mobilizing domestic resources and investment at scale for all dimensions of the food transformation. It also means scaling up finance and investment by MDBs, IFIs, behind country priorities. And we heard in Seville many commitments that were made to do so. We've got work to do to scale up private sector investment in our agriculture and food systems, and this should include SMEs that serve the backbone of our food systems, interfacing with millions of food producers and consumers. Fourth, we must continue to drive for an integrated approach. We need simultaneously to pursue policies that measure the focus of equity and resilience through linking environmental, economic and social dimensions of food systems. There's a lot that we have to put together. It is incredibly complex. We have been working in silos for many, many decades. And to bring them together is not just a question of the public sector, but it is also our partners, and trying to make sure that in that cross-fertilization of ideas across sectors, that we make greater impact and more sustainably. Our policies need to be rooted in local culture and communities, the traditional knowledge, to help guide approaches that can accelerate those transformations and enhance. And fifth, we must continue to leverage science, technology, and knowledge. We are in a new era of technology, and science and innovation will be prerequisites for food systems transformation and can support alignment of health, agriculture, climate, biodiversity, and economic objectives, and strong policies. We know that strong science policy society interfaces are essential and must appreciate traditional knowledge. New technologies such as artificial intelligence are changing our economies and our societies. The road ahead demands that we leverage the appropriate and responsible use of technology to ensure prosperity for all in a healthy, livable planet. But where we can, we should also see technology as a way to leapfrog those that are left furthest behind. And therefore, the digital structure that we need to have in place requires huge investments, and these investments need to come with that in food systems and that in energy transitions. This will ensure that we are connected and that we leave no one behind. Finally, we must connect with our future, and the future's here. I agree with our young people. They're not merely future beneficiaries of food systems change, they are active co-leaders in transformation. Policies should enhance opportunities for young people to create and to innovate and to thrive. And I was so pleased when we were introduced to the youngest minister that we have here, our minister from Togo, a young woman who is fighting her way in her cabinet. But we will thank her young president too for bringing her on board. It is important that we see young people in decision making, in our cabinets, in our public institutions leading the way. Excellencies, colleagues, on the road to 2030, there will be important milestones, and this is why multilateralism is so important. The UN is your global town hall for the global family that we are. And we are diverse, but we are strong in that diversity. And we have many gatherings that we come to. This is one of such, and it's about food. And we'll continue this conversation as we go to Senegal for the Africa Food Forum. But there are other multilateral gatherings which are important. They will include the World Summit on Social Development in Doha. It will include our UNFCCC COP30 in Belém, in Brazil, the UN CBD COP17 and the 2027 SDG Summit. But it will also include important gatherings of our leaders in the UN in September, and of course those of our economies, our largest economies at the G20 in South Africa this year. UNFSS+4 has reinforced the value of a dedicated space to foster collaboration, deepen systems approaches of food systems, whose purposes are at the heart of the 2030 agenda. Our UN Food Systems Coordination Hub, Stefano, Lena, and the team will continue to advance progress at country level through our resident coordinators and our incredible footprint of our UN country teams. These will be accompanying your national conveners, collaborating with other partners, particularly those that are new coming into food systems. And our movement has shown what is possible when we work together in deliberate ways across sectors with stakeholders and countries with a shared purpose. And so our call, Antonio Guterres and I, call on governments, on people everywhere to build what has been accomplished and continue to work together for peace, but also to realize the vision of the 2030 agenda. Let's continue to do that in solidarity. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency Amina Mohammed. We now warmly invite our esteemed co-hosts to take their seats with the audience in the first row. Join us in escorting their excellencies as they now join the floor. Excellencies, honored guests, following the powerful remarks of our esteemed co-host and the Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations, let us take a moment to reflect on the remarkable achievements of this summit. Please direct your attention to the screens for a short closing video that captures this vision and milestones.
Sustainable food systems can advance all 17 Sustainable Development Goals, and transformation is underway.
Welcome Ethiopia, where the story of humanity began, the birthplace of coffee, a land of rich heritage and fullness potential. It is with great honor that we co-host the second UN Food System Summit in partnership with Italy.
Food is a right, a cultural expression, the pillar of a nation's identity and sovereignty. But it is also the first step towards being truly free, independent, and masters of our own destiny.
Governments are leading the way, integrating food systems into climate strategies, biodiversity frameworks, and national budgets. Empowering women and youth, scaling up nutritious school meals, and investing in agroecology. But governments cannot do it alone. The private sector must play a vital role, from innovation and logistics to finance and investments. The future of food is the future of humanity. Let us work together to build food systems that nourish every person, restore our planet, and grow prosperity from the ground up.
What an inspiring reflection of our collective journey. Thank you so much for your attention. Excellencies, we now turn to our first panel, Steering the Course Together, featuring diverse voices from stakeholders, the youth, innovators, indigenous peoples, and rural women. This panel will reflect on progress since the 2021 summit and outline priorities for the next biennium. Please join me in welcoming to the stage. First, we have Mr. Reno Dominic Kabunkol, a youth representative. Welcome, Reno. Following, we welcome Ms. Tina, co-founder and director of Nature Doots India. Welcome El Morani, United Nations Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues. Welcome, Ms. Hanie. And then we have Ms. Liz Harrow, Executive Secretary of the Network of Rural Women of Latin America and the Caribbean, REDLAC. Welcome, Ms. Liz. A very warm welcome to all of you. And let's begin with Mr. Ino Dominic Kabunkal. As a youth representative, Reno, what are the priorities that the youth want reflected in national and global food system action plans coming out of the UNFSS +4? And how can we move from inclusion to
As I'm here today, I don't just speak as a youth delegate. I speak as was a child who eat meals only rice and salt, just enough to feel full. And one day, I saw a child alone in the streets, curled up in the cardboard box, malnourished and invisible to the world that passed him by. The moment didn't just break my heart, it defined my mission. And I often ask, who is to blame? The government, the system, or the world? It was the United Nations Food Systems Coordination Hub through its youth leadership program that helped me transform my pain into purpose. This program shaped me not just understand policy, science, and systems thinking, but to see that food systems are interconnected and everyone has a role to play. From farmers to scientists, from youth leaders to policymakers, we are one ecosystem. The hub connected me to mentors, tools, and policy training, to fellow youth across continents, and sharpened my skills to really think systems. And it helped me to translate my perspective into purpose, and my purpose into transformative action. Ladies and gentlemen, I am no longer just a youth with a story. I am a youth with a strategy. And I am not here to be exception, and we are here to open doors for many more youths. We must scale the opportunities like the Food Systems Youth Leadership Program, and we must invest to the youth leadership in every region, especially those at the margins. Let's bring this program to public schools, farming communities, indigenous youth groups. And how do we make sure that every young person from the rice field of Cambodia to the dry lands of Kenya has the opportunity to lead, to serve, and to transform? This transformation didn't happen by accident. It happened because someone believed in the youth. It happened because the German government chose to invest concretely and boldly in empowering young leaders through this program. And the impact? You see it here in the summit, in the youth-led action being adopted, raised in the local innovation taking root. Imagine if every country made this choice. Imagine every government, every ministry said, we will invest in the youth as the co-leaders of the food systems. We wouldn't just change the conversation, we would change realities. We would end the heartbroken conflicts stealing to the children's future. We, the youth, we are farmers, we are scientists, we are storytellers, innovators, and advocates. To all the youth in the corners of the world, to the youth who are fighting in silence, to those ones experiencing food insecurity every day, and to those hiding in the rubble of war, I see you. I feel your pain, and I promise I will be the first to lend my hand to you and say, it's going to be okay. I believe in you, to the youth, and I am so proud of you. And I know that you can lead and you can transform food systems. You can change the world. Let no one say we're too young. Let no one say we were not ready. Let no one say that we are silent. We will deliver the transformation, and we will not stop until every plate is healthy and full. Thank you. Permission to stand for the Youth Declaration.
No. Next, Ms. Sinahal Verma. As a representative of the private sector, how can nature-based and tech-driven innovations be mainstreamed to support resilient, inclusive, and sustainable food systems? And what structures or incentives are needed to scale these innovations globally?
Thank you so much. Let me begin by just extending. Oh, sorry. I hope now I'm audible. To begin, I really want to extend my deepest thanks to the people of Ethiopia for their warm hospitality and for introducing me to one of the world's best coffee. It has been phenomenal. I also want to extend thanks to the government of Ethiopia, Italy, and the United Nations for convening this vital dialogue, and a special shout out to World Economic Forum for facilitating our participation in the summit. I want to also stress that we need to really believe in the power of transformative tech, which is helping us now adapt and de-risk some of our critical food ecosystems and paving way for more responsible food production. For example, we work in Blue Foods right now, which provides protein security for 800 million people. But even then, it is one of the most undervalued and hidden food systems. With an immense potential to address climate resilience and protein security, one of the key reasons for it to be such hidden harvest is because of the inaccessibility of data and information. And in today's time, with the help of AI, we can help shed more light on some of the intricacies of these interconnected food systems. And it can help transform by bringing nature's intelligence into some mainstream deployment as we reimagine some of our food production systems. As a founder of building AI-driven digital twins in water food systems, I would like to highlight 3 key points which helps make sure that our technologies are not fragmented in silos and are not limited. First, the catalytic capital is crucial for new technologies to find their way into mainstream markets. Without concession of funding and patient capital, scale-up for startups becomes difficult, and it diverts our focus and attention from innovations to more towards operation. So rethinking how we make this catalytic funding available to startups and innovators at ground becomes crucial. Technology today helps us simplify and not stratify, and thus investing into digital public infrastructure becomes super crucial, because when data and other systems are open for public to work with, it helps us upscale innovations, because a lot of time is spent in just mobilizing resources to work on the fundamentals for bringing these nature tech into mainstream. Especially this is more than ever needed in low and middle income countries where the data gaps are super huge. And by investing in digital public infrastructure, we are able to help ensure equitable and inclusive development and mainstreaming food production system from a more systemic lens. And the last one being, can we create sandboxes where we can bring SME startups and investors all together to reinvent and demonstrate how some of these unconventional technologies are tackling unconventional problems, and this way be able to redefine how business as usual is being done into a more nature-centric and people-first approach. Startups world over are ideating and working together across borders, and they're ready to collaborate and partner. And forums such as UN Food Summit right now provides us with impetus to come together and actually mobilize and demonstrate how we can effectively tackle some of these pain points. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Snehal. And now to Ms. Hania Morani, representing Indigenous people. Indigenous people's food systems are not only vital to them, they offer powerful tested models that benefit all, and they have the potential to transform food systems at large. So what transformative changes are needed to recognize and to ensure adequate investments to scale them appropriately?
Thank you very much for this question. Dear relatives, Indigenous people's food systems are a humanity. They are ancient, they are tested, they are resilient. With just 5% of the world's population, Indigenous peoples protect 80% of the planet's biodiversity. That is not an accident. It is the result of food systems built on care, reciprocity, and respect for the earth. But these systems are under attack by many threats. I have seen war myself. In the recent horrifying conflict in my homeland, Iran,
I have seen the way war drained the soil of its fertility and the spirit of its people. And I cannot speak of war without naming other places such as Gaza and saying Palestine. Because as we meet here to speak of food systems, Palestinian farmers and fisher folk, indigenous to their land, are starving, blockaded, displaced, and silenced. They are not in this room. Their absence is our collective failure. And even in places without war, other forms of violence persist. Colonization stole our territories and tried to erase our ways of life. And today, sanctions and unilateral coercive measures in more than 50 countries block indigenous peoples from receiving even the most basic support. Yet, still, we are continuing, still feeding our peoples, still protecting what remains of the world's biodiversity, healthy soils and forests and rangelands. After the 21 UN Food System Summit, indigenous leaders from every corner of the world came together and created something historic, the Indigenous Peoples Food System Coalition. This coalition is not a side event to a history. It is a turning point. It is where centuries of wisdom meet today's urgent needs. It is where real transformation is already happening. Our Indigenous Food Coalition is more than an alliance. It is the living embodiment of the rights affirmed at the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, especially Article 3, 18, 20, and 26. But this coalition cannot thrive on goodwill alone. We need 3 shifts now. First, recognition. Recognizing our second, direct investment, not filtered through layers of bureaucracy. We do not seek to be treated as passive recipients of aid, but as rights holders and true partners, co-designing and co-leading the transformation of food system. If the world fully understood the value of what indigenous people safeguard, I mean our seeds, our knowledge, our solutions, the question of adequate resourcing would not even arise. It would flow naturally as a matter of justice and shared survival. Third, power sharing. Stop placing indigenous peoples at the margins and footnote of your policy or as a symbolic status. Bring us into the rooms where decisions are made as equals. Because, let me be clear, there will be no true food system transformation without indigenous people's food system. Our coalition is ready. What we ask is simple. Engage with indigenous people's food system coalition with all of your heart. Because for thousands of years, we have been transforming food systems. Now it is time. Now it is time for the world and this summit to transform with us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ms. Hania. And finally, Ms. Luz Haro. As a representative of women in food systems, what are the next steps to ensure rural women's leadership and knowledge are recognized and incorporated in national policies on food systems? And what kind of transformative support is needed for women in rural and indigenous communities, because this is essential?
I'm going to try to bring together some ideas.
Until we tune on the translation devices.
From what we're trying to do is, as Red LAC, is to create a kind of network of women to support the cause of rural women, and continuing with the formative processes which allow us to reach more women We have to go with this message and this knowledge in order to increase their active participatory capacity in various spaces of decision-making. We need to continue with the aim of strengthening organizations and to build new organizations in civil society at the grassroots to reach out to women in the field on a national and international, regional level. Another point, with the knowledge that we have ever more talent. We can have a bottom-up approach, building bridges with the most humble and rural communities who don't even really know the word rights. They don't even know that they are there set forth in international agreements. That's what we have to address. But on the other hand, we have to build bridges and reach out to decision makers in order to ensure that they know that there are international agreements which are also on the table, such as designing the decade of rural women, so that I hope 193 states in the world can make progress on the cause of rural women. Because we don't have the time or the capacity. We're always at the maximum. We always need to do what we can with our hearts and with our hands to continue to produce food. And I hope that they go directly from the orchard to the table. And we also need to take into account, as has been said here, that in food systems, for example, in the educational system or in social assistance housing, this has a role to play. Everything that has been spoken of here, really, I think of my country in the Ecuadorian Amazon, where we have the emotional burden of thanks to God, to life, and to you who made it possible for us to be here. At 73 years, I, a farmer, can come here to the United Nations, to you, and to learn from you and to share with you what we know. We are working beyond the color of our skin or political or religious creed. All of us in rural areas must work together, because otherwise we're sectorized, because that divides us. So we need to all stand together. And I don't know whether I can be present for the next summit, which will be held, but I leave it to your hands, and I leave it up to your hearts to seek possibilities, to hold out a strong hand, as like a right to live with dignity in the rural community, so that we are not obliged to leave our homes. We want green fields producing healthy food, as we rural women have been doing. Healthy food with our ancestral seeds, free of hybrids, which allows us to continue to produce with what we have. Friends, distinguished authorities, please remember rural women when you take decisions at every space of decision-making. Thank you very much. And I would like to hope that we have great wisdom so that we can all participate equally in this world. I thank you.
Thank you very much to our distinguished panelists. You may now join your seats with the rest of the audience. Your Excellencies, we now move to our second panel, Going Far, looking ahead to global milestones like COP30, the World Social Summit, COP17, and the 2025 SDG Summit. We will now have a ministerial session. Please join me in welcoming our distinguished ministers to the stage. First, we have His Excellency Mr. Wellington Diaz, Minister of Social Development and Assistance, Family and Fight Against Hunger of the Federative Republic of Brazil. Welcome, Your Excellency. Following, we have His Excellency Engineer Khaled Tanaifat, Minister of Agriculture and International Convener, Jordan. Welcome, Your Excellency. Following, we have His Excellency Gevorg Papayan, Minister of Economy, Armenia. Welcome. Welcome, honorable ministers. First to you, Your Excellency Wellington Diaz of Brazil. How will Brazil's COP30 presidency build on UNFSS +4 outcomes to embed food systems in the climate agenda with a focus on inclusion, justice, and rural livelihoods? What legacy does Brazil aim to shape through COP30 for global food systems and climate governance, Your Excellency? You may speak from the podium.
Okay. Excelências, meus colegas de painel,
Your Excellencies, members of this panel, representatives of governments and international organizations, civil society, the private sector, academia, and other participants. It is with enormous satisfaction and a deep sense of responsibility that I represent the President of the Federative Republic of Brazil, Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, at this closing session of the second stocktaking of the United Nations Food Systems Summit. I would like to extend my sincere appreciation to the government of Ethiopia, through the person of its president, for the warm hospitality that was afforded to us during this meeting, as well to the government of Italy as co-host of this important meeting, and to all the agencies and institutions for the remarkable work done over these past days, especially the UN Food Systems Coordination Hub, FAO, WFP, and IFAD. And I'd also like to thank all those present. Yes, it was a historic day for Brazil. The 2025 report on the state of food security and nutrition in the world confirmed that Brazil has left the hunger map. This was a promise that was made by President Lula at the beginning of his term in January 2023. The goal was to achieve this by the end of 2026, but we reached it in record time, just 2 years. In the world, we need to ensure that through SOFI 2025, we need to know that up until 2030, there will be many people that will suffer hunger. And so with social participation of the different institutions, as well as solid policies, as well as international cooperation and political will, it is possible to ensure that we provide our populations with a dignified life. During the last 3 days, we heard how the fight against hunger and poverty must, above all, be a political decision. We've seen how women, youth, family farmers, fishermen, indigenous peoples, and traditional communities are especially vulnerable to climate change. But also, they are a vital part of the solution. They are actually the true agents of food sovereignty and food security and nutrition. That is why I strongly support the crucial role of the Committee on World Food Security in global food governance. Dear friends, this November, Brazil will host COP30 in the heart of the Amazon forest. The COP will take place in Belém do Pará, and that will represent a unique opportunity to build synergies among climate, social, and food agendas. The decision to include the transformation of agriculture and food systems as one of the priorities of our action agenda demonstrates Brazil's commitment to this very important issue. It is impossible to fight hunger and poverty without also addressing climate change and climate actions and climate finance. That is why in October 2024, with the support of the Hub, Brazil became the first pilot country in Latin America and the Caribbean on the Convergence Initiative to connect climate action and food systems. 1 year later, in October 2025, Brazil will launch its public policy framework for food systems and climate, aimed at integrating solutions for production, supply, and consumption, all grounded in the promotion of a human right to adequate food. At COP28, the UAE Declaration on Agriculture and Food Systems marked a turning point in raising awareness about the role of food system transformation for climate action. The action agenda at COP30 will provide to move toward implementation and be essential to that process. This time, hunger and poverty, which now has more than 190 members, including 103 countries, we are working to present a leaders' declaration at COP30 that will also position social protection and support to family farmers as key components of a just climate transition. I take this opportunity to once again invite all countries and interested parties to join the Global Alliance. Ladies and gentlemen, there is no just transition without food systems transformation. There is no sovereignty without food security and nutrition. We are confident that what was presented here in Ethiopia will feed the discussions at COP30 and at the Social Development Summit in Doha, Qatar. It will inspire not only our speeches but our actions. Let COP30 be the COP of implementation. See you there.
Addis to Belém to Doha to Yerevan and New York, so allow me to jump to Yerevan. Let me come to you. To Your Excellency Gevorg Papian of Armenia, how can COP17 in Yerevan help converge food systems, climate and biodiversity policies and operationalize UNFSS Plus commitments through stronger biodiversity and food system linkages?
Thank you very much. Honorable President Tayyat Selassie of Ethiopia, Honorable UN Deputy Secretary General Amina Mohammed, Honorable Special Envoy Stefan Gatti, Ministers, Excellencies, Honorable Delegates, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great pleasure to participate in this high-level event on ensuring sustainable food systems for achieving the Agenda 2030. Following the initial Food Systems Summit, Armenia has taken concrete its food system transformation pathway into budgeted strategies and action plans closely aligned with national development priorities. Armenia's expertise shows that food systems transformation is not a future ambition, it is happening now. It is indeed very relevant to have this important conversation here in Addis Ababa as a concluding session of the second UN Food Systems Summit stocktake to show the way for enhancing agricultural productivity and food security. As it is well known, biodiversity is the foundation of agriculture and food security, providing the very basis for ensuring the livelihoods and eradication of hunger and poverty. However, while biodiversity is essential for our food security, at the same time, the way we ensure our food security has a huge impact on biodiversity. The question is how do we address the unsustainable consumption and practices that harm the environment, deplete its vital but limited assets, and create huge challenges in terms of waste and pollution. We need to utilize, protect, restore, sustainably manage ecosystems to address those challenges while strengthening the global outlook for climate action, disaster risk reduction, food security, and human health. Excellencies, as you know, Armenia will be hosting the next conference of parties of the UN Convention on Biodiversity, the COP17, and will be stewarding the efforts of parties in achieving many crucial objectives of the Convention. Using this opportunity, I would like to emphasize that the upfront commitment from Armenia as the next host of COP17 will be to ensure inclusive deliberations with all parties and stakeholders to make sure that the outcomes of COP17 are equally shared and cherished by all and lead us to the attainment of the global vision for living in harmony with nature by 2030. In conclusion, allow me to use this opportunity to invite you all to Armenia in October 2026 to jointly turn the biodiversity COP17 to yet another celebration of our collective wisdom to protect and preserve our nature while ensuring the sustainable development of our society. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. And now to you, Engineer Khalid Tanaif out of Jordan. As a national convener, what key progress have you helped steer in food systems transformation at the national level since the 2021 summit?
شكرا. فخامة الرئيس السيدة أمينة محمد نائب الأمين العام للأمم المتحدة
President, Ms. Amina Mohammed, ladies and gentlemen, it is for me a great pleasure to participate in the closing ceremony of the second UN Food Systems Summit Stocktake. I would also like to thank Ethiopia for its hospitality and for its participation in organizing this summit. Indeed, we are to implement inclusive food systems. And indeed, there is a need to recognize the role of the United Nations in the area of the support granted to member states. The Amman Declaration emphasized the fact that the transformation of food systems in the Arab region is necessary, and there is a need for it to be an absolute system. We've begun to ensure cooperation on a regional level, and we have supported the area of research. The Amman Declaration also emphasized the need for the international community to shoulder its responsibilities. Indeed, food systems mean various things, given that the world as a whole and the Arab region are facing challenges, huge challenges. Millions of people are suffering from malnutrition, a lack of water, the increase in food prices. There is a need to take into consideration also, when we talk about the transformation of food systems, of the human dimension. Because the fact of prizing people when it comes to food is a huge challenge. Indeed, the fact that the international community remains doing nothing in the face of this tragedy is inconceivable. Indeed, it is a crime of not having ensured necessary food for populations. We have created the necessary measures in order to address the serious food situation in certain regions of the Arab world. Indeed, we have also sought to ensure the durability of food systems. We've also ensured cooperation with a lot of countries in the region. We've also ensured the provision of food resources to assist other countries. Ladies and gentlemen, given that I am responsible for dialogue on food in Jordan, I would like to draw your attention to the need for a transformation of food systems following on from the 2021 UN Food Systems Summit. We created a Supreme Council of Ministers in Jordan. In this, we included stakeholders as well as civil society. There is also need to account for or share with you the efforts that we are making in Jordan in terms of transformation of food systems. We have created a national database which includes national indices, and this in cooperation with the FAO. In fact, we have developed reports and analysis focusing on food security. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Ministers.
And I hope that we can implement all of the recommendations.
We'll now escort you back to your seats as we proceed with the next segment. Join us in applauding our Honourable Ministers for their contribution. Your Excellencies, at this point, we will have the closing remarks. We will hear closing statements and crucial messages from distinguished UN principals. Join me in welcoming them to take their seats here on stage. Join us in welcoming Dr. Chu Dong-yu, Director General of the FAO. Join us in welcoming Mr. Alvaro Lario, President of IFAD. Representing Cindy McCain, Executive Director of the WFP, join us in welcoming Valerie Guarnieri, WFP's Assistant Executive Director of Program Operations. Also join us in welcoming Claver Gatete, Executive Secretary of the ECA. Welcome, Your Excellencies. It is now an honor to invite His Excellency Dr. Chu Dong-yu, Director General of the Food and Agriculture Organization, to deliver his closing statement, Your Excellency. You may speak from there or from the lectern.
Excellencies, dear colleagues, Honorable Excellencies, President of the Republic Ethiopia, and also His Excellency DSC, Aminia Mohammed, and as my friend Gadi, Ambassador. I'm so delighted to join you. We are going to closing this important and successful summit, but not closing our agenda. It has been important opportunity to reflect on our collective progress in transforming global agri-food systems to feed a growing population, ensure food security, and guarantee access to the health standards for today and for generations to come. Yesterday, we launched the 2025 State of Food Security and Nutrition in the World Software Report, The figures are abysmal. You can read online. I don't want to repeat it here again. Over the past 3 days, 4 clear messages I learned. First, youth must be at the center of the agrifood system transformation. That's why I established the Office of Youth and Women 2 years ago. Sunday's action days remind us of the powerful role of the youth as a driver of change. They are not only future farmers, processors, and service providers, new generation of consumers also, but also the future leaders and policymakers. Early this month, IFAO launched the first global assessment on youth in agri-food systems. The findings are clear. 1.2 billion young people will enter the workforce in the next decade, but many risk of being left behind. Close this gap can boost the global GDP by $1.5 trillion, almost half of that from the agri-food system. But this requires increased access to land, financial, market, education, most critically, decision making. Second, science innovation are not optional. They are the necessary conditions. We must scale up the solution that work fast. We must turn the challenge into opportunity. Third, targeted and scale up investment is urgently needed. Traditional development financing and ODA alone are insufficient. Change business model, lead to the transformative impact. Financing for agri-food system remain inadequate, fragmented, and misaligned, particularly in countries most vulnerable to food crisis, where the public investment is limited. What we need is a new financing paradigm. First, the public resource must act as a catalyst. Second, innovative finance instrument. Third, the choice of instrument must align with each country's capacity and risk profile, unlocking more options as the environment improves. I was pleased to see these issues featured predominantly during the investment dialogue this week. Fourth, transformation demands strong, trust-based partnership, especially with the private sectors. We need a new model for collaboration grounded in mutual trust, shared value, and aligned incentives. This remains one building the portfolio of bankable, country-driven projects that are also commercially viable. Second, reduce risk, not just financially, and also by the improved data transparency, predictability, profitability, and market accessibility. And third, create enabling ecosystems. The private sector is not only a supporting sector, it is a co-partner in scaling innovation, deploy technology, and unlock capital, business continuity. Dear colleagues, we have concluded the second talk. I reformed FL, fully committed to work with all of you, government, youth, professionals, civil society, private sectors, transform our agri-food system to be even more inclusive, more resilient, and more sustainable. For realizing our collective vision for 4 betters: better production, better nutrition, a better environment, a better life. For the better food, secure future for all, leaving no one behind. Let us continue to this long marching together. We have already taken this first step until mission accomplished. I thank you. Thank you for host country and host government.
We thank you, Your Excellency Dr. Chu Dong-yu. Following, it is a privilege to hear closing remarks from His Excellency Mr. Alvaro Lario, President of the International Fund for Agricultural Development, IFAD.
Thank you. Your Excellency, President of Ethiopia, Your Excellency, Deputy Secretary General, Excellencies, colleagues, friends, I want to thank each of you here in the room for the 3 days of dynamic, thoughtful, and results-oriented dialogue. And let me also thank all of the teams, technical teams, also led by Sir David Navarro, who have made this possible. Has been a year or more of work, so thank you to all of you who made it happen. Let me also thank our gracious host, Ethiopia and Italy, for all the work to really convene us here. This week has confirmed something that we have long understood. Food systems are the foundation of inclusive and sustainable development. As the State of Food Insecurity 2025 report data shows, the challenge ahead continues to be immense, and the gap between our ambition and our delivery remains very wide. Tackling rising inequalities, climate shocks, and food insecurity requires scaling investment and anchoring national food systems pathways in country-owned, data-driven financing strategy. That means empowering governments to optimize domestic resources while leveraging concessional finance to private capital effectively. IFAD will continue with its mandate, which is beautifully summarized by Luz Aro, the rural woman from the Ecuadorian Amazon, to build and invest in thriving rural communities that can grow their food, their businesses in rural areas, no matter how remote they are. And at IFAD, we're stepping up on our investments, but we cannot do that alone. That's why IFAD is mobilizing the private sector through innovative instruments, concessional loans, blended finance, and the risking tools tailored to rural markets. These mechanisms convert agri-food potential into real market opportunities, especially for small agri-entrepreneurs, women, and youth, and support inclusive models that sustain jobs and build local demand. Looking ahead, distinguished colleagues, IFAD will remain a critical investment platform and vehicle to channel patient capital and support countries shift from short-term fixes to long-term investments in food security, rural employment, and climate resilience. We are also proud to continue supporting the UN Food Systems Coordination Hub and contributing to key coalitions, including on school meals and decent work, as well as leading on the Agriculture Public Development Bank platform. Our collaboration with the World Bank on the Financial Flows to Food Systems initiative is also advancing, offering critical data and tools to guide smarter, more targeted investments to governments. None of us can solve the food systems transformation puzzle alone. Alongside other international financial institutions, Rome-based agencies, IFAD remains committed to delivering country-owned solutions at scale. But we need the political will and we need the financial power to really match our ambition. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Your Excellency, Mr. Alvaro Lario. Following, we'll hear closing remarks from Valerie Guarnieri, WFP's Assistant Executive Director of Program Operations, speaking on behalf of Executive Director Cindy McCain.
Thank you so much. And on behalf of WFP's Executive Director, Excellencies, leaders, colleagues, friends, I would like to thank our hosts, Ethiopia and Italy. Thank the Deputy Secretary General for her leadership, her conviction, and her compassion that has kept this so high on the global agenda, and the hub and the technical teams that have really helped realize this effort. I'd also like to thank all the governments who have attended and are showing that there is determination to turn vision to action. And at the World Food Program, with the Rome-based agencies and the entire UN family, we're proud to partner with you. Because ensuring food systems deliver for all people is for sure an essential step on the road towards zero hunger. And it's also a powerful way to reduce aid dependencies, grow economies, and foster peace and stability. We've seen that real progress is possible. Countries are charting new paths, whether that's investing in local markets, strengthening school meals programs, empowering smallholder farmers, emphasizing women smallholder farmers, and forging inclusive partnerships. And you can count on the broad set of partners represented here to help you translate that ambition to action, that strategy to systems change. Because food systems are not just about food, and food is very important, but they're also about the future. A future where no one goes to bed hungry, and where communities have the tools that they need to thrive. Thank you so much.
We thank you very much, Your Excellency Valerie. It is now an honor to welcome His Excellency Claver Gatete, Executive Secretary of ECA, to deliver his closing remarks.
Thank you. I'm told I have 3 minutes plus 1 as the last speaker. President Taye Selassie, DSG Amina Mohammed, Special Envoy Stefan Gatti, Honorable Ministers, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. As we close this critical gathering, I wish to extend my appreciation to all participants, facilitators, and partners who have contributed to this rich dialogue over the past 2 days. I'd also like to thank the organizers for really hosting this event here at the Economic Commission for Africa. This is really an honor for us. Thank you so much. I don't think I'm going to, I changed my speech to PowerPoints when I had the young people here educating us about agriculture. And here are my few takeaways. One, I'm not going to say anything that you don't know. I'm just going to tell you what I think would be very important. First, we need to have an ecosystem. We don't have agriculture or food system just in isolation of the entire ecosystem. Number one, we need inputs, fertilizer, seeds, and preferably produced in-house. This is really clear for productivity. We also need irrigation in view of climate change. We need land consolidation. We need science, technology, and research, plus data. And this is what would really increase the productivity. But also, in addition, we need post-harvest management. We need infrastructure, the roads, energy, technology, and the rest of it. So you cannot do agriculture without also looking at these other issues. We also need value addition. For all our products, we need to add value. That means we need processing, we need industries. And third, the elephant in the room is the financing. The financing that is tailored to agriculture. You cannot survive getting money from the commercial banks. It's not sufficient, it's not the right way of doing it. And that's why we need affordable financing. Sometimes at home, so in every country, they have, in most cases, development banks. And they must develop the development banks which are geared to supporting agriculture. At the global level, we must mobilize affordable financing for agriculture. And we need to have commodities exchange, sometimes which has the warehouses, and give warehousing receipts that is geared to the farmers. But also we need private sector engagement. Government alone is not sufficient. We need private sector to be in this field of agriculture. And also we need to organize our food markets. At the local level, how do we organize the supply of these markets? At also cross-border trade, very, very important. And in most countries, you find the cross-border trade is really helping most of the people, especially in the rural areas. We also need the continental level trade, especially within the context of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, which we really need to take advantage of in terms of trade in agriculture, and of course, global trade. So we need an organized system that is going to help us in that trade. Fifth, the skills. From what I have seen and from the countries I have traveled to, it seems you have left the farming to the rural people, sometimes who don't have enough education, the likes of my parents and my grandparents. And then you find that the people that you find there are really mostly tourist farmers, like some of you here who have full-time jobs, but also have a farm, and you call yourself a farmer. And this is not the kind of thing that we need. We need young people graduating from universities, being trained, supported financially, and at the same time, given land and other facilities to make sure that they understand the market, they understand how to do agriculture, and also they are more modern than the way we used to be. Those are the people that we need who can compete globally. Finally, we also need leading global partnerships. We cannot do it alone. And coming here together is also a very good example on how we can work together in terms of supporting each other globally to make sure that we can move the food systems fast and fast, but also learning from each other, learning from the experiences of different continents, of different countries. Finally, of course, as the last speaker, I just wanted to end on a good note of the last speaker. There used to be, and I think the president may associate himself with this one as a former diplomat, is that there used to be a diplomat who gave a speech for 3 hours. And after 2 hours, many people started leaving. And when he finished, there was only one person left. He turned around and said, "Why are you still here?" And the person said, "Because I'm the next speaker." So thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Your Excellency Claver Gatete. Excellencies, we thank you. We now invite you to take your seats with the audience. Thank you so much. And now, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, to deliver the official closing and a powerful call to action, we're deeply honored to welcome Her Excellency Amina Mohammed, United Nations Deputy Secretary General.
Oh, Clever, I told you the women get the last word, right? It's not a speech, so please stay in the room. There's no speakers after me. It is really, I couldn't let this end without a round warm of appreciation. There is no person or organization that can take credit for a movement like this. And so to the political muscle that I got from Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, and to my boss, Antonio Guterres, thank you for allowing me to have that political muscle to get us all in this room. And then to all of you for being here with us in this beautiful city. The diversity, the quality, the ideas and the actions that you're taking every day are truly an inspiration. And what gives me the energy to get back to New York and face that concrete jungle and say, yes, we're going to go out and fight the good fight. The generosity of our Ethiopian people, our hosts, was on full display, particularly those that received us in the various field trips I'm sure that you all took part in on Sunday, and took time to share their experience and improve our understanding. And I saw the success of your school feeding program as I shared Sunday with many children who were having that meal. Next, I need to specifically call out the national conveners. You are our leaders. You're our catalysts at national level. The UN system and our resident coordinators are your partners in each of your transitions. Thank you. Speaking to our partners, ECA, led by Claver Gatete, you heard him. He had a speaker behind him. It was me. Thank you for hosting us in this beautifully renovated house. You and your entire staff have been exceptional hosts, and thank you so much for that. We'll be back again. And of course, to our principal partners in this ongoing effort, our Rome-based agencies, each of you, FAO, IFAD, WFP, Dongyu, thank you so much. You've got a great camera there, and I've seen you taking pictures of us. Yeah. You sent it to me? Okay, thank you very much. Alvaro, and of course, Valerie, please extend our warm thanks and deep gratitude to Cindy. And I think here your entire teams have been behind us over this year. You're at the center of this work, and you have been the backbone of this effort. Thank you also to our permanent representatives in Rome. I don't want you to forget them, because this is about member states and their responsibilities to gather what they can to get behind us as we try to affect the transformations, and also to the CFS. To the entire UN family who is coming along with us, I'm so glad that entities like UNDP, WHO, UNIT goes on, continue to play a really strong role alongside our own-based agencies. Special thanks to the teams behind the great co-hosting effort by Ethiopia and Italy. It includes our permanent representatives also in New York, but it also includes two special representatives, Ambassador Maurizio Massari of Italy and Ambassador Tesfaye Sabo. These have been incredible friends of ours and who have pushed this to make it happen today. We also would not have had this agenda filled with the ideas and the inclusivity that you've seen today if we didn't have our advisory board members. We set in purpose this advisory board, and even from that advisory board, we pulled out an setting team. Each and every one of them get their time to sharpen our focus. They brought fresh thinking, led many of our sessions, and have mobilized the partners that you see in this room today. Thank you. You know who you are. Underpinning our work today, and for the last 4 years, making everything happen, is our Food Systems Coordination Hub, supported by many of our donors, some of you here today, but I want to just a big shout out to Stefanos. Stefanos, stand up and be counted. Thank you. Stefanos, you and your team have a tremendous lift. We took you out of Rome and brought you to Addis, and although we had great hosts, I know what a lift that was for you to get this agenda done and to make sure it's a success. But it was worth the effort. I can't thank you enough, and I sure as know I stressed you, so thank you. But to my amazing team that keeps me going and here and still standing for these thank you remarks, Lara and Zach, and I'm sure you probably know Zach even more because stand up and everybody will get your hairstyle. This is but also to my team in the front office as well, Saada and the team. What would I do without you? Thank you very much. So In conclusion, I am really grateful and honored to have taken this journey together with you all. And I really look forward to continuing the next mile in this journey of ours. And I think let's go to work with the remarks and with the fire that was put under our feet by our 73-year-old Luz Haro this afternoon. I'm so glad that you came. You just showed us that age knows no boundaries. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency Amina Mohammed, United Nations Deputy Secretary General. As we conclude, kindly join us in bidding farewell to our high-level dignitaries who will depart now, and the rest of us will then follow. Displayed on the screen are pictures from this rich United Nations second stocktaking. You may scan the QR code and you may be able to access the pictures from the summit. Thank you all so much. Safe travels and have a pleasant evening.
Recording stopped.